It hasn't started. There we go.
Hey,
There we go.
here we go. I'm Chris from Podcast Engineering School, and I'm really psyched to have here with me Mike Adams. He's the host of Audacity Channel. That's a podcast. We'll link to everything below, obviously. He also teaches Audacity at audacitybootcamp.com. Mike, happy to hang out with you today.
Hey, thanks, Chris. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me today. This is going to answer a lot of my questions.
Yeah, because the reason we're doing this is you emailed me and you said, hey, I recently was starting to use Reaper and it seems great, but I don't know, exactly how to use everything in Reaper. And then you said, then you went looking for courses and you didn't find a good course that suited your needs for Reaper for podcasting. A lot of the Reaper stuff you found was for music production. So then I said, why don't we just hang out for 20, 30 minutes and I could quickly show you around Reaper and maybe ask you, answer your questions. So that hopefully this is helpful for everyone. So before we jump into Reaper, tell us just from a high level, tell us your production workflow, right from recording all the way through production. Just give us a high level of your workflow.
Okay, the first thing I do in my workflow after I record is I do content editing. And by that, I just mean I get out the ums and the ahs, the false starts, the repeats, the stuff that just doesn't belong there. And then once I do
where do you do that, by the way?
I do that in Audacity.
Okay. And you're doing it on one track or multiple tracks if there's multiple participants?
If there's multiple participants, it's multi-track. If it's just me, which usually it is, it's just the one track.
Okay. And you edit out all the tracks. You edit all the tracks in Audacity to take out the ums. Okay.
Correct. And any microphone bleed over, I get rid of that. I do all of that in my content editing. And then when I'm done with my content editing, now Audacity, of course, supports, real-time stackable effects. So now I start putting on my effects. And I use primarily Waves. I have the Waves Omni-channel, which I really like. It's a little bit taxing.
Shep's Omni-channel. Yep.
Yes, the Shep's Omni-channel, which I really enjoy. I've got other plugins, but I'm trying to just use that Shep's Omni-channel exclusively because it's got so much in it. It's got an EQ, it's got a gate, it's got everything that I need in one plugin. So I do all of that, and then I export my file as a WAV file. My final product is a WAV file. And then from there, I import it into Auphonic to do my leveling. And I don't use the web version of Auphonic. I have the desktop version that I bought several years ago. And I just dump my audio into that, and I do my leveling. If it's a stereo, I go to a -16 LUFS. If it's a mono, I do -19 LUFS. And then from there, I convert it to MP3 and I upload it to my host.
Perfect. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so you're basically using Audacity for everything. The cleanup, the editing, and then the mixing.
Except the recording. Usually I record directly into my Zoom H6. And then I just pop that card out, put it in my MacBook Pro, and start Audacity, and away we go.
Got it. Okay, so now that you found Reaper and you're thinking you might want to start using Reaper instead of Audacity, we'll get into Reaper right now. But what we're essentially going to talk about today is if you were to replace Audacity with Reaper, right?
Yes.
Is that your plan, by the way? Or because some people do this, they'll do what you're doing. They'll make the edits in Audacity, but then they'll bring it into Reaper to do the mixing and stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to start using Reaper if I can wrap my brain around it. I mean, there's so much power in there, and there's so many things in there. So if I could get to a point where I feel confident with it, I'll start using it.
Okay. All right. So then let's show Reaper here. So here you can see Reaper, and I have to switch to the Reaper window so you can see all the waves and stuff. So what I'm showing you here is, well, it's obviously Reaper, but this is an episode of my show, episode 223 of the Podcast Engineering Show. It was with Vic and Mike were my guests. This is Vic's track. This is Mike's track. And here's my track. And so I'm just going to go through real quick and explain what you're seeing on the screen here. And I'm assuming you can see it fine. Okay, so And you know what? Let me make it full screen as well.
Okay. That'll help.
Yeah. Although it doesn't get any bigger. That's not right. We'll just keep it here. This is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. That works.
Okay. So what you're seeing here in Reaper, by the way, so on the top left, you have the transport, right? Stop, play, pause, record, all this. And then you have the counter here, the clock and the stuff. Then you have the tracks here on the left. And then on the bottom, you have they call this the mixer section, which is, it's very similar to these tracks going vertical on the left. It's the same tracks going vertical on the left as it is going horizontal on the bottom, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's that. So you could see here, like I said, I showed you my track, Vic's track, and Mike's track. And then I also have, for instance, my intro music. I have that on its own track, obviously. I have it muted right now because, well, I've been using this session to show things, so it's not all lined up and stuff. I also have a track for my iPad for any sound effects. Like if you listen to my podcast engineering show, you know Barry's voice, right? This is where that would be on its own track, but it's not there today. And then you have the outro music, which if I zoom to the end, you can see here. This is my outro music song, which is a good song.
Can I ask you a procedure question right here that doesn't have anything to do with the program itself? But when you've got stereo music like that, and you've got mono tracks, do you export as a stereo or a mono?
Me personally, I export as stereo because if you have any stereo music, it's best to publish in stereo.
Okay.
Because stereo music sounds better in stereo. If you can publish it in mono, but the stereo music will be collapsed to mono and it sort of loses some of its life. Now, some people don't care about that. Some people don't care. They're like, oh, I just want to publish in mono because I want to save space or whatever. And that's fine. But let's be honest about stereo audio. To be very clear, stereo music versus mono music. Stereo music is just way better. I mean, that's how music is produced. So that's what I do.
I was just curious about that. So thank you.
Yeah. So I have my intro and my outro music are both stereo. And then you can see right here, I have an extra track. It's called the pre-roll message. I don't know what I was doing here. I had to, you know what? This was an episode where they were talking about their new product and it started to sound like an infomercial and they're not a sponsor or anything. They're just a guest, but it started to sound so much like an infomercial that I got really scared. So I put this little pre-roll message in the episode just to tell people, look, they're not a sponsor. I'm not promoting this product. We just talked a lot about it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that was a pre-roll message there. And then, like I said, you have Chris, Vic, and Mike. You see our tracks. And then I have a bunch of other cool stuff, a doubling effect on me, a doubling effect on my guest. And then I have a vocal subgroup and a reverb and chorus channel, which we don't really need. That's a little crazy. We can get into that. But okay, so for music, and one thing that's really cool about Reaper, and that's, I think, probably way better than Audacity, is that this little effects button, it brings up your, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see the Fab filter?
I don't see it, no.
Oh, yeah. See, this is the problem with sharing on StreamYard. You can't see that. All right, anyway.
Is it off screen? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a pop-up. I probably could, you know what? Let's do this. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I just got to be careful. Okay, so let me remove that. And basically I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to share my entire screen. It won't let me. There we go. Yeah.
There you go. Now we're talking.
All right, but now when I come back here, it's going to look nasty. But now we can go full screen on Reaper. Oh, yeah, so now you got Reaper, right? Full screen?
Yep.
And if I click effects, you're going to see this big pop-up of the Pro Q3, right?
Yep, I see it.
Yeah, so that's an EQ. So these are all the plugins that are on this track.
Okay.
And so it's easy to just add, you click add and then you choose a plugin to add. And so every track has its own effects. And so if you click on my track, which is here, click on effects, now you're going to see what I'm using. I'm using the Kit BBN 105, which is a channel strip with really nice saturation. It's also an EQ. I'm using slightly the EQ. Then I'm using the Vocal Rider plugin from Waves, which is a good one. Then I'm using Soothe 2 for the sibilance. This is probably the best de-esser on the planet. And then I'm using Pro Q3 for a little EQ as well. This is one of the best EQs on the planet, right? These plugins aren't cheap. These are all third-party plugins. So,
right.
But like you said, you have the Sheps, which is great because we can add the Sheps. And the Sheps is great. Sheps is the greatest plugin for podcasters ever because it has all these. It has the saturation, the preamp section, has a gate, 2 de-essers, EQ, compression, and a limiter. It's great. So you can, and then when you buy this is cheap. This is like what, $29 or $39?
Yeah, it's not bad.
You could use it on everything.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's how you do effects. So for what you're doing, okay, what I do is you do your cleanup in Audacity. I do my cleanup in Isotope RX.
Okay.
And this is pretty expensive, but it's really good to clean up stuff. You can see it has all these modules over here: de-hum, de-plosive, de-reverb, de-win, de-s. There's a bunch of de-noises. There's a mouth de-click. This is like insane software to clean up audio. So I do all my cleanup in here, and then after it's cleaned up, I bring it into Reaper.
Okay.
So that's what I do. So what you could do, yeah, go on.
So you're using Isotope as a standalone program, not as a plugin.
Correct. Although you can use most of those modules in. So right now I'm in Reaper. I just clicked on effects on my track, and we can add. Where is it? Isotope. Yeah. We can add. These are all the VST3s. So RX10. We got breath control, de-click, de-clip, de-s, de-hum,
nice.
de-plosive. It's a million things. We'll just click on one just for the heck of it. What do you think? Well, let's go mouth de-click.
That's always a good one.
Yeah, sometimes people need that. Not everybody, but some people need that. Some people like that. Some editors are so I want to say offended by mouth clicks. Not offended, but grossed out by mouth clicks.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. They use this to get rid of them. So anyway, so you could potentially, and there are other third-party plugins you can use, like denoise plugins, and so however you're cleaning up the audio in Audacity, you can probably do in Reaper. Reaper
Right.
does have built-in plugins. What is it? The Cocos. Yeah, Cocos is who makes Reaper. So these are all the plugins that come with Reaper. But I got to be honest, they're horrendous compared to. I mean, this is the Reaper, the compressor in Reaper.
Oh, okay.
Look at that. That's the
Wow.
most disgusting thing you've ever seen in your life, isn't it?
Wow, that's not intuitive at all.
I mean, golly, that's terrible. I'd much rather use the Sheps
Yeah, there you go.
compressor. Look at this thing. This is great. 3 different flavors: VCA, FET, and optical. All the controls and a mix knob. Are you kidding? For parallel compression? Okay. Anyway, enough gushing over that. So. Yeah, so you could bring in all your files, and the one thing is you gotta, as you know, if you do have more than one person, you have to line up
Right.
their tracks. And you can see here, I've cut a lot of space out. I cut out space where the person wasn't talking. Because look, right here, this person made a noise. So I like to be really clean, and you could see this is my track. This is me, by the way. This is me saying, uh-huh, mm-hmm, uh-huh, mm-hmm, okay, uh-huh, oh yeah, okay, and whatever. You get the idea. So I don't cut them out because they're part of the conversation. But I do cut out parts what's here? I'm sorry. Oh, there's that little thing. Yeah, look at all this noise on his track here.
Yeah.
Oh, what is
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Be harder to
Wow.
replicate the optimum system. Once you can do a pretty cool thing.
See, he's muting his mic and unmuting.
Really happy with any of the headphones?
Those
Oh,
clicks.
yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
nasty. So anyway, I like to go through and just clean up everything. Like,
That's the same thing I do.
yeah, you just. And again, if someone like me, for instance, on my track, I know I'm very quiet in my recording space. So you could see even when I'm not talking, it's very quiet. But sometimes I still like to clean it up and just
Sure.
get rid of all that. I also use a guide track. So this is a live recording, this guide track here of the whole conversation. So what I do is I bring the guide track in first, and I start that from the very beginning.
Do you have
And
to
then
build
I'll
that
bring
guide
in
track, or how do you get to the guide track? How did you make that?
Well, the guide, so it's recorded on my machine locally.
Okay.
So I either record it with my, you know what, just for a change, let's go here. So when I'm recording podcasts on my machine, whether it's my show or a client's show, because I do engineer shows for clients, right, remotely. So whenever I record any podcast, I'm recording on my Mix Pre 6, which is it's an audio interface and recorder piece of hardware. I record on that. It's just as a backup. And I also record in my computer with Audio Hijack because I'm
Okay.
using Mac. So Audio Hijack just captures audio. It's just a recording program, just captures. So I just record that. So like, for instance, you and I right now, we're using StreamYard, and I'm using the Brave browser. I'm running StreamYard within the Brave browser. So on my machine right now, if this was a normal podcast episode, I would be recording the Brave browser
Okay.
as we're talking. So now your voice is going to be on that, and my voice is going to be on that, right?
Right.
So now that track, the recording of the Brave browser, has both of our tracks on it. So I put that in my DAW as the guide track, because
Okay.
the guide track is literally like the live recording.
Right.
And so the
right.
timing is perfectly natural, right? This is me and you talking back and forth. It's just a conversation.
Right.
And then afterward, then I'll bring in my track, which you see here, and I'll line it up to this guide track.
Okay.
And then I'll bring in Vic's track, and I'll line it up to the guide track. And then I'll bring in Mike's track, and I'll line it up to the guide track. And then when they're all three of these are lined up, I mute the guide track because I don't want to use the guide track. This is just
Right.
to guide me,
Right.
because the guide track has multiple voices on it. I don't want to use that. That's not professional audio. I want to use all of our individual tracks, but I want to make sure they're lined up to the real-time recording perfectly. So that's how I do it with a guide track. Yeah.
Is there a way? Is it okay if I ask another question?
Of course. Let's go.
Is there a way to synchronize those sections of audio that you've got to make sure those tracks stay in sync with one another?
I mean, when you line them up to a guide track or something, they pretty much will line up. I mean, there
Okay.
might be slight drift, but a lot of these companies like StreamYard and Riverside and Squadcast and Zencastr, they've kind of fixed the drift problem. It used to be
Okay.
a bigger issue like 3, 4, 5 years ago, where you could record, let's say 3 people record on Squadcast, and you bring it into your DAW, and even if they all start at 0, they sort of drift apart from each other as time goes.
Right.
That doesn't really happen anymore to any meaningful degree.
Okay. Okay.
But you still have to check that. And that's why I use a guide track to check it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So now I brought in all 3 participants. They're all lined up. I've muted my guide track because I don't need it. And now I'm ready to mix it. So what I do is I'll just go use a bunch of plugins on my voice to make it sound good. Use a bunch of plugins on Vic's voice to make it sound good. What am I using on him? I'm using the Pro G Gate. I'm using the BB N105 again. It's one of my favorite plugins ever. I'm using the MJUC compressor, and I'm using the Vocal Rider.
Okay.
And then after
Well-
go ahead.
Does this allow for? Can you save your plugin chain for reuse?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You just bring up your plugin chain and you go up to effects and you say save effects chain.
There you go.
And you could save the chain. So right, for my voice, I have more than one saved chain, like, because
Right.
I tweak it all the time. So I'll save it now and then. But yeah, and
Good.
then the save chains make it easy because when we do a new episode and I bring in my track, I bring in my audio here, right? And then boom, look, I have no effects. Oops. I have no effects. So what I can do is come in here and go to the effects. And actually, I don't know. It's like some weird bug lately. You kind of have to choose one plugin and then you can go up to, then you can add an effects chain.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know why. Usually you should, maybe it's something I'm doing wrong, but anyway, these are my saved effects chains. And so where's the one for my voice? I call it main 09, use with vocal subgroup. Yeah, so I'll hit OK, and now you see it'll put in all my whole chain.
Okay.
That's my saved chain right there. So I'll delete the God particle, which by the way is a great plugin for music. Okay, but this is my saved chain here. Now I don't use all these plugins, but these are just like my favorite plugins so I'll just load this. Now in the saved chain, I'm using the gate with a very low threshold, minus 52. Sometimes I usually bring it even down to minus 54, 55.
Mm-hmm.
That's a gate I use. And then of course I use my BBN 105 just with the saturation on, not with any EQ. And so that's it. This is my starter. This is my starting point. And then
Okay.
usually I'll add other, like I said, I'll add the Soothe if I need to. The Oxford Inflator is a great plugin to make the person's voice sound closer. I mean, I could talk plugins all day, but that's how I do that. And yeah, and then it just comes down to mixing. Like, okay, here's your intro music, and then you line up your message and whatever, and then you make sure the timing is right on everything. And it flows well, and then you adjust the levels. Like, okay, your intro music's a little too loud. Okay, bring it down a hair with the fader, and then okay,
Right.
Chris's voice is a little low. Let's push Chris's voice up, maybe 1 dB, and you mix it. That's called mixing, right? So
Right. How about LUFS? Is there anything built into Reaper that will give you the ability to level to a certain LUFS standard?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't do it here. I do my LUFS in RX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people use they'll put the waves. I don't even know if I have it. The WLM loudness meter.
Yeah, I have that one. I have it. It's a WLM Plus will allow you to set the level.
Yeah, so you could. I actually don't have that. But yeah, you just put that plug in on your master bus here.
Mm-hmm.
You use it as an effect on your master bus, and then you could set the LUFS of that, and it'll do it. And then when you export it or render it, Reaper is render. When you
Okay.
render it, it'll render it at the right LUFS level, if you want to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. I do have that plug-in, but most of the time I'm so spoiled using Auphonic that it's hard to pull away from that. But yeah, I do have the WLM meter, the meter plus or the plus meter, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I have used it in the past, but there's something about Auphonic that I just keep going back to.
Sorry, I just wanted to come back to us for a second.
Sure.
So yeah, all right. Well, before we go any further into the effects, because I'm doing some crazy stuff in that session, like with chorus and reverb and I'm doing some advanced music stuff and I'm just doing that because I'm a crazy person, right? Any other podcast producer, you don't need to ever do that, okay? Just to be clear.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that plays around with this stuff.
Oh,
I really
man.
get into it. I really enjoy audio. So yeah, I get in there and experiment all the time. Try this, try that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. And it makes such a difference to the listener. That's what, most people do not understand the value of good audio. And even when you tell them, and even when you show them, they're like, I don't know. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is fine. That's their experience. But as professionals, people like us, we want to put out a product that is professional.
That's right.
And the way to, a great way, I'll just throw this out here. I say this all the time, but if you ever want if you ever want to sort of evaluate the production of a podcast, one of the things you can do is listen to it in your car and go drive down the highway doing 75 miles an hour and listen to the podcast.
There you go.
And if you can hear it well, and you can, and when someone like right now I'm talking normal volume, but if I talk a little bit lower volume, that's a little bit lower volume there. If you can still hear the lower volume stuff when you're driving 75 miles an hour down the road, that's good podcast production.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you don't want to be chasing that volume up and down. That you don't want to do that. You want to turn the thing on, listen to it, and enjoy it.
Exactly. You don't even want to. The idea of audio production should never come into the listener's mind.
Mm-hmm.
They should just press play and be in another world listening to the content, and that's it.
There you go. There you go.
That's it.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, what else would you want to do with Reaper? I mean, you just, you create a session, you go nuts with plugins, and you can, by the way, you could do editing there too. I didn't really show, but you can split clips and you can ripple edit and ripple delete. Same way you do in Audacity.
Right.
Similar.
Yeah, similar. It's just getting familiar with the user interface, and seeing what you do. It always helps to see what somebody else is doing. I mean, I've gone in there and messed with it. I actually recorded one of my podcasts in it, and it turned out good. But I just felt like I was lacking on, am I missing something? Is there something more here that I should be doing? Am I doing too much? So it helps to see what you do, because that puts it in context for me, and it helps me to, realize that, yeah, I'm doing enough. What I've got set up in my version of Reaper is enough for what I do. So I just need to get used to it at this point.
Good. Yeah. And there's a lot of features. I mean, you can adjust the playback speed. There's a million features in Reaper. And here's the thing I'll tell you and everyone watching. You don't have to learn every single feature and setting in Reaper. You don't do that, by the way, because you can't. It's too big of a program with too many features and settings. Go do it on a need basis. If you think one day, I wish I could edit this podcast in Reaper, listening back at 1.5 speed, 1.5 times speed, and you don't know how to do that in Reaper, you just go to Google and YouTube, search YouTube. You'll find a video. Someone's going to show you, you adjust the speed right here. And then that's it. You're done. Like, it took you 12 seconds to find that answer. So my point is, as little things come up in the software that you don't know how to do, just go to YouTube and search it, and you'll probably find it. Or you can ask in groups and online groups and stuff, like even Steve Stewart's group, the Podcast Editors Club on Facebook.
Right.
That's a group where you could, for instance, ask that question and people would probably answer it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to know everything, but like you said, hopefully it helps you to see it, and you can kind of get the gist of it, the vibe of it. And because now you've already been doing stuff like this, just not with this program.
Right.
So,
right. It's just it's the different feel. It's the different look, it's just the different, it's a different game. So, just getting used to where everything is, and, going back and using those same things over and over again. Cause like you said, that, I'll probably use 0.1% of what's in there. I just need to know where that 0.1% is, how to get to it, how to save it off, how to make it work for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. You can even make, like, I'll show you one thing I did. One thing I did is I created some auto fading. So the S key will split a clip, right? It splits the clip. And then Now that I have this clip highlighted, you just hit delete and it's gone. But I made a command. Oops, not that one. I made a command from the cursor forward, it'll fade out.
Oh, there you go.
So when I, like, for instance, if I was going to try to make a clean edit here, I'd probably split the clip like around here. So let's just delete that. And now from here, this is when I stop talking, and then this is when Vic starts talking. So I would, right from here, I would hit my little key that I programmed, and it'll gently fade out my track as he starts talking. And then I can do the same thing here. If, for instance, let's say we could just delete that part because we don't need it. But now, like, if I wanted to fade into here, it'll just gently fade in, and then
Oh yeah.
that's me. So, and then sometimes I'll even get crazy. I'll go through every one like this and just, fade it in and fade it out. 'Cause it just makes a smoother entrance and a smoother exit. It makes it almost, so the listener can't really hear, like, if there is any slight background noise that's coming in as it fades up, it'll fade in gently and then it fades out gently. It just makes it more, not transparent. It makes it, it doesn't
smoother.
disturb the listener at all.
Yeah. It isn't
Like,
like
it's the-
complete silence being cut off, right now. All of a sudden we're just silent. It isn't that. It's more gradual.
Right. It's like a gentle transition,
Yeah, there you go.
not abrupt. That's the gist. So and there's a lot of stuff. You can program keys. You can, do everything. So any other features in Reaper we wanted to?
I don't think
at?
so. I just wanted to get that high level look at it. It helps to see what you're doing. And I think at this point, I just need to spend more time with it and kind of immerse myself in it.
Yeah, you'll get used to it. And then even like even certain clips, you can, for instance, you right click a clip and you go to item properties and has all, you can adjust the volume of that little clip. You can put an effect on just that clip, not even the whole track, just the clip itself. There's so much you can do with each clip, and it's just so handy.
Looks great.
And all the automation. This is my music automation. So you can see right here that it comes in. These are all you don't need to worry about. Anyway, don't worry about those. But it comes in at 0 and then quickly goes down 5 dB. And then that's when I come in as the host of the show. Hey, welcome to the show right here.
Right.
And then it stays at the same volume. And then I fade it out nice and slow, really gentle at the end. And so the automation is great. And there's a million things you can automate. Here's what you can automate in Reaper. My goodness.
Wow. Yeah. Look at that.
But actually, volume and pan, these are probably the only two you're ever going to automate.
Okay.
I mean, you can automate individual plugins and stuff, like as you could see here, but in general, volume and panning are what you might want to automate. So if you can use panning, you can make someone's voice go from the left speaker to the right speaker.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff you could do. You just click it to make a. Oh wait, yeah. Hello and welcome. Now, before we get started today, I wanted to give you a quick note up front that. So the music went to the right. I talked with Vic and Mike. Now it's back in the center. Hello, and in this episode, I talked with Vic and Mike. Now it's on the left. Yeah, so you can automate all. It's crazy.
You can really keep listeners alert.
Yeah, what is it?
Keep changing it up.
Yeah, so you can do anything you want, and it's just great. So, all right, well, if that's all the questions you have at the moment, we can leave it there.
That is. I really appreciate it. Your time again, Chris. This is really helpful. So, I do appreciate it.
Great. So, and don't forget, by the way, I'm putting up YouTube videos a lot these days. So go to YouTube. It's the Podcast Engineering School YouTube channel. And it's pretty great. And just to remind you, and I'll put the links below, but Mike Adams is the host of Audacity channel. It's a podcast. And he teaches Audacity at audacitybootcamp.com. I'll link those below. But definitely, if you're watching this, consider giving this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you need any help, this goes for you, Mike, but everyone else, if you ever have questions, just ask me. Go to the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. There's a contact page. Just send me a note. I love talking to you guys, and I love helping when I can, when it's, as long as you're not asking for, 17 hours of free consultation, I'm happy to help out if I can.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Well, thank
Good
you.
to,
I really
chat
appreciate it,
with you.
man. Yeah.
All right.
You too.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
All right. See you, everybody.